long on the warning track behind him. But Elliott, nice play.
Come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1. Line drive to the base hit. Just as the score of the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is led by big World Series.
The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Racker throws. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them in their faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings long drive left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins. Here's the pitch to Willie.
There's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. It's 6 feet back. Home run.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a jam. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
I see with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this
crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Hey! Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
All right, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of the program. I am Dan Scott. Good to have you with us as we continue rolling our way through another week, another beautiful day unfolding before us here in the upstate of South Carolina. The gorgeous look that I have out towards Paris Mountain now is, again, one of those Chamber of Commerce type postcard views. It is sunshine, it's blue skies, the mountain standing majestically in the background behind the visitor stands here at Powelton Stadium. It is a view that, as I have mentioned before, people who've been on this campus for years and years come and say, man, you've got the best view on campus. We will take it. It's one of the perks of the job. How's your day going? Hope that everything is going well so far. We've made it to Thursday, so the weekend is in sight. Now, for some of us, the weekend's going to be obviously busy working, if you can call being at the ballpark work. But for others of you, I know that it's family time and maybe yard work time or whatever the case may be, however you relax on a weekend. So you're almost there. We have gotten past the halfway point to get you there. Our goal today, as always, if your day's going well, we don't want to do anything to screw it up. If it's not, maybe provide you a little bit of a lift and trying to learn something we did not know by the time the show was done, and that, again, always starts right here. Got a good one lined up for you today. This is going to be an easy one for me because it's going to be largely two interviews. Furman football coach Clay Hendrix will join us coming up at about 10:20, and baseball coach Brett Harker at 10:45. From the baseball standpoint, it is back to Southern Conference play with 3 games against Wofford this weekend. The Terriers are, I think, 22-11 out of the gate this season and 4-2 in league play. They have been playing well. And, of course, the added dynamic of Brett Harker and Terriers coach Todd Interdonato being neighbors in the Mallard Creek subdivision. So it's a Mallard Creek series, and we'll let him once again tell you about the yearly bet that the two have going on. That'll be at 10:45 as we'll preview that series. But in between, we'll have Clay Hendrix. And just kind of get caught up on how things are going in the offseason. And you remember, they went very, very early as far as spring practice is concerned. And there was a method to that madness. They wanted to get more time in the weight room between the end of spring practice and the beginning of the summer when school is out here and the players will all be gone for the first semester of summer school by and large. They'll all be back on campus for the second semester. As Clay acknowledged at the end of last season, they ran into some situations late where teams were just bigger, stronger, and faster. The word he used was, we got exposed. So the idea was, let's do spring practice very early, and let's get extra time in the weight room to try to get bigger, stronger, and faster. And then with the added dynamic of the new strength coach here, Andre Bernardi, all of it is kind of new, and everybody, including myself, wondering how things are going. So Clay Hendrix is going to be here to answer all of those questions coming up in just about 10 minutes or so. So we've got a good one lined up for you today. Hope that you'll enjoy it and hang out with us through the course of this next 50 minutes or so. The show is always brought to you by our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company. They're located just down the road from campus in Cherrydale Plaza. Fantastic food, even better people, and just incredibly thankful for what they've done as far as sponsoring this program. Highly encourage you, with all of our sponsors, to go check them out. I would not steer you wrong, number one. Number two, please, it's incumbent, more so than any job that I've ever had doing this, because of what we're trying to build here with basically a web-based program. I really need you to go to our sponsors and tell them, A, we heard about you, and B, thanks for supporting the Dan Scott Show, and hope you'll do that with the Atlanta Bread Company. When we come back, going to have a little bit of fun with some things that happened in the world of Major League Baseball last night. And say what you want, I, for one, love the Red Sox and Yankees rivalry. I'll tell you why when we come back after this. Dan Scott Show continues in just a moment.
Holding, number 79, defense, first down. I'm also holding a party tonight.
Great call by the official. Looks like we've got another flag on the field.
Holding, a Pepsi. Necessary refreshment.
Hey, Ted, bring some of that Pepsi to my party.
Pepsi and the NFL. Welcome to the Fun Doesn't End Zone.
The Atlanta Bread Company wants to make your dining experience as convenient as possible, especially if you're ordering takeout. Go online to atlantabreadcompany.com, place your order there, and pay for it too. Then, when you get to the restaurant at Cherrydale Point, you breeze right by the cash registers and go straight to the pickup counter where your food will be waiting. And speaking of food, try the new Shrimp Po' Boy, a delicious and surprisingly healthy addition to the already great menu. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Point in Greenville. When the Furman baseball team goes on the road, it travels safely, comfortably, and with the latest technology with Jeans Tours and Charters. Jeans has been a Furman favorite for decades and has serviced Furman baseball for over 20 years. Take it from head coach Brett Harker. Book your next road trip with Jeans. Jeans Tours and Charters, online at jeansbussvc.com or call 864-242-1673. Jeans Tours and Charters, servicing the upstate since 1980.
If you've been sidelined by an injury, the St. Francis Sports Medicine team is here 24/7 to get you back on the field. Our highly trained network of physicians, athletic trainers, and physical therapists treat all types of sports-related injuries, even those that don't occur from playing a sport. Call the St. Francis Hurt Line at 675-HURT for priority appointments or at-home advice. Again, that's 675-HURT.
Extra. It shows. It's made for physically tasty.
All right, welcome back to the program. I am Dan Scott. Good to have you with us.
Renewal, Ultimate Lotion, Ultimate Skin.
Somewhere, and I need to stop that. Naturally, it's CBS Sports.
How does one go about
causing me the
being an avid Red Sox fan?
Here. I love technology, love it, but when you cannot stop these pop-up videos from starting to play on their own when you go to a website, it causes you major issues. Anyway, you see the guy sitting beside me. Clay Hendrix is the head football coach here at Furman University and is kind enough to come and spend some time with us. Been in player meetings this week, and just like we say all the time, there's never really an off-season, Coach, is there?
There's really not. I actually just had a few this morning. I think I've got about 15 more guys to go. have gone well. Just try to find a time this time of year just to sit down individually with each one of them, and but they've been good, been productive meetings.
What are the nature of those conversations? Obviously, without giving us intimate details, but why do coaches have individual player meetings?
Well, I mean, our assistants have done it certainly before. I think in my case, we talk about the academic side, where they are. We've got a couple of weeks left in this term. A little bit of maybe what they want to do, later on. Good chance just to get to know them a little bit. I mean, you feel like at this point in time, it's certainly different than it was a year ago because I know these kids much better. Maybe what our expectations are. As I like to tell them, it's this is how I see it, and you tell me if you see it different. Just that we're on the same page, and they've been good. It's been a productive time. It really has.
A year ago, were you having to put the athletic tape across the helmets with the names of the players on them, so you knew who everybody was?
Well, even when they didn't have helmets on, we even put it on their shirts a few times, but. We talked about. I think we put them in numbers last year, even during some of our running workout drills, so we would kind of know. We didn't have to do that this year. So, but no, we've got a good group. Been working really, really well, in our off-season program, and it's been a spring around here is challenging for us. We have more players than other sports, and just working around class schedules. I think, golly, Andre, there's maybe about 4 different times during the day we have to get them to try to get them all in the weight room. And then other sports need to use the weight room too. So there's a lot of challenges to kind of make it all happen. Long days, even though it's off season, but it's been really productive. They've handled it well.
I want to talk about the philosophy you've taken in this offseason and going back to the end of last year and the marvelous season that we had here in your first year. The words you used for a couple of games at the end of the year, and especially after it was over, was we got exposed. That was your word. Teams that were a little bigger, a little faster, and a little stronger. So you made a conscious choice to go much earlier than normal with spring practice, hoping that you would get more time in the weight room and could maybe make up some of that ground. Am I accurate in that?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I wanted to go early. First of all, I didn't have much staff change, which,
that helps.
When you have it helps, certainly helps a bunch. So, and to be honest with you, we revamped the entire system offensively from a communication standpoint. We had some time in December, both in January, because we got ahead in recruiting. We're able to do that. To me, it was more important the gains we could make from March 1st to the end of May in the weight room. To me, that was more important than the carryover time from spring practice. I think spring practice is always carryover. It's a necessity, but I don't know. The fact if you were finishing practice today, does it help you more in August because you had less time? I don't think so. I thought we had a really productive spring. I think we've made some really good gains in the weight room. It's been kind of fun to watch some of those bodies change. And you're asking, Elijah McCoy asked the other day, he said, Coach, I've gained, 8 pounds in the last, 5 weeks. Just an example. I think we've had a lot of guys like that.
And that's 8 pounds of muscle.
Well, you would hope so. He looks well. And he was a young body. He was one of those young bodies in there. And, you play that position, there's a lot of wear and tear in a season, and bodies coming at you from all directions, and usually those bodies coming to him are bigger than him. So I've been really pleased with the progress we've made.
Well, let's go back to the spring practice, because as you are laying the foundation for the 2018 football season, you've got a dynamic where you've got just about everybody coming back on defense. And your major changes, obviously, are on the offensive end, where you're replacing a quarterback, you're replacing just an incredibly productive tight end in Andy Shumpert. Of course, P.J. Blazejowski was a quarterback. You've got changes at wide receiver. You've got changes at offensive line in places. So the offensive side of things are obviously where the biggest question marks are. What did you see in the spring that was encouraging on that side of the ball?
Well, I felt like this. If you'd asked me that this time last year, what's your identity? Well, I knew what I wanted it to be. I do feel like we have a little bit of an identity now. We kind of know who we are. So we were able to recruit to that. Really pleased, a little more depth, certainly, numbers-wise, much different situation than we were in a year ago. We played so many young guys. They should have been a lot better, but they're still young guys, and I think we have to realize that as coaches. I've told our team, I said, when we start playing in September, we're going to play to our strengths, and whatever they are at that time. If it's, hand the ball to fullback, and we'll do a lot of that. But I really think this time of year, I think you need to spend a lot of your time identifying your weaknesses, and that's individually, and you better focus on those weaknesses and trying to improve them, because you can't do a lot about those when you get into September. So I just think it's been, where are our deficiencies? Some of those were physically. That's why I thought the weight room.
Right.
A lot of our problems I thought were physically, just physical maturity. And so we're trying to address that in the off season in the weight program. And then, we're 15 months into this thing, and our roster has changed. I looked one day. I think our roster is about 55% different than it was when we got here. And that's not all going to change overnight, and it's not going to change in 13 months. So it's still a work in progress. We still got a few positions we're really thin at. You have things happen. You have injuries. That can affect you. And, we had a few, inside linebackers, obviously a good key. Just, we had a lot of attrition at that position throughout the season, and it's still not where we want it to be. But, going back just the spring, we're just so far ahead. Coaches much more comfortable with what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're working together, all those factors.
How about the dynamic now of George Quarles taking over as the offensive coordinator?
Well, I told you before, part of my plan when I came here, I felt like I had two guys that could any day you almost could switch them out, and I really smooth transition. I think it's been a good move for George. It's been good for us. I hadn't missed it. I hadn't seen anything change there. I think all those other guys with him are that much better. It's like any time I think other guys' roles changed a little bit, and they've all accepted those well. And then, Connor Shaw's been a phenomenal addition to our staff in lots of ways. I've already seen a change in recruiting. I wanted another quarterback guy on staff, and he had coached tight ends, but I think he's taken ownership of that position. And But
he also brought a little publicity too, didn't he?
Absolutely, it continues to.
Yeah.
Continues to, and we stuck him down there in an Atlanta area where he's kind of from.
Yeah.
And then he's got some area in South Carolina, but smart guy, really good worker. He kind of fits the mold of the guys we were looking for. When we all started this.
This is Furman football coach Clay Hendrix just giving us a little state of the off-season update here on the Dan Scott Show. Let's talk about the quarterback position, specifically coming out of spring practice with PJ gone. Obviously, that's the hole that everybody else is looking at, whether necessarily you are or not. That's what the media focuses on, the fans are focusing on. So just talk about the quarterback position, where we are right now, and will someone from a freshman standpoint come in and challenge maybe in the fall?
Well, I've told our guys this. I said, I think the day we finished spring practice, I told our coaches, we were sitting in there, we're looking at our board, our depth chart, and I said, really there's two positions right now that, today we're not as good as we were a year ago. One of them is at center. Lost a pretty good player there.
Yeah, Matthew Schmidt can play a little bit.
I like the guys we got coming along, but we're not where we were there. And I said the other one's quarterback. There's no knock on the guys we have right now. We had a senior who played a lot of football, had a really productive year, but I like the guys we have. Really those two guys. I actually met with both of them yesterday. It's Jamar and Harris, and. You know what? I think the way our system is set up, and it's pretty simple. It's take care of the ball. Play within our offense. I think we would, those two guys, they can do everything we ask them to do. But if one guy's in there opposed to the other one, the emphasis might change a little bit, as far as what you do ask them to do. I told them both, I said, the nature of who we are, we're going to get some guys open. If we can run the ball like we want to run the ball, I said, we just got to be able to hit open receivers. I said, PJ did a great job of that. Or we asked you to make a lot of tight window throws. Not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There's times you got to do that. But just being productive. And I think when it comes back to, when you want to do those things, it comes back is just fundamentally, how good are we? And mechanically, can we hit those open receivers? Can we take care of the ball? Certainly can we get in the right play? Can we make some changes and those type things if we need to? And, they're both capable of making plays with their feet. And then, and the two guys coming in will be interesting. We'll certainly give them an opportunity to get in there and compete. I hope we get, as a program, we get to the point where it's really, really hard for a freshman to come and take the place of an old guy, because we're developing those old guys.
Mm-hmm.
Our program's not there yet. There's still going to be a handful of guys I know that are going to have to play some kind of role. But I was really pleased how those two guys came along. Both played with some poise, and they had chances to make plays. Jamar, we tackled Jamar some in the spring. That's something I hadn't done a lot.
Is that just to get him accustomed to getting hit?
Just to get him accustomed to doing it,
Yeah.
because you got at some point he's got to do it before you play a game. I'm not sure I wouldn't do it in August. I felt like Harris had been in that situation a little bit more. He had proven he would kind of take care of the ball. So, but I thought Jamar handled it well. Both those guys played with some poise, and it'll be fun to watch them develop, throughout the offseason.
Talking about the center spot, again, Matthew Schmidt had such a phenomenal year and won all the awards and is hoping now to go on and continue his career professionally. That is the anchor, obviously, of your offensive line. What does it look like behind him now, and what does the rest of your line look like?
Well, I've been really pleased. Pete Lusk has done a great job with that group. You finally kind of feel like, all right, you look at who the guys are on the board and who you're playing with, you kind of feel like you're starting to get enough of the pieces in place.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of trying to get athletically where you want to be. One of the goals I had to that group, we got to be more athletic up there, and we'd certainly love to be big and athletic. But Cole Neely was a true freshman who was our backup last year, and I wish we could have redshirted him. When John Bockhorst got hurt in August, that kind of eliminated that chance. But I thought Cole made some great progress in the spring. One of the things we do, we've just trying to solidify that position a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We moved Reed Krober in there. And right now in the Southern Conference, it's almost like it's part of the contract. You have to play an odd front defense. So there are a lot of people in our league that have a good nose sitting right over the center, and so which creates, a little more of a necessity at that position. You're not uncovered out chasing the linebacker all the time. And so we tried to solidify that. Caleb Auer spent the entire spring at center. I don't think he'll end up staying there, but I think that time will be invaluable to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, John Bockhorst is coming off the ACL, which there's no reason he shouldn't be 100%. So right now, if it was today, I'd say it'd be Reed, Cole, and John will be the three guys going forward that'll, kind of fight it out at that spot. I think Reed's played every position. I hadn't had many guys do that in my career. Guys are redshirt freshmen, and I think he's played every position.
Mm-hmm. And some of that out of necessity, obviously, right?
Yeah, a little bit. We made a decision after about 3 games last year to move him to guard just to try to solidify that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And, that group, I've told them, we need to become a little more durable. I guess I can use the word tougher. There's times we need to be a little tougher in there.
Yeah.
But right now it's just having some young guys, continue to develop. And
you want your offensive line. I've always heard you want your offensive line to have a little bit of a mean streak.
No question. And it's.
There got to be smiles when I says that.
When I said that. There's a little bit of recruiting involved in that, and that's developing players. And I certainly have seen a change in that group and in the way they work. Hired Andre Bernardi in the weight room there, and I think anytime you replace a good person, you want to continue to hire good people. And somebody asked me, I said, we had an absolute home run with that hire.
Yeah.
It's been phenomenal, and just hearing the response of our players, and he's been working the heck out of them, but they just almost kind of seem to enjoy it. You know, they've taken the attitude a little bit about the way we've practiced. We tried to streamline, limit the amount of time we're in there, yet really picking up the tempo, and it has been a really, really positive.
I want to go into a little more detail about Coach Bernardi in just a minute, but I can't help but think, as you're sitting here talking and you're getting Pete Lusk, credit for what he's done with the offensive line. Let's not pretend that the old offensive line coach here doesn't keep a special eye on what's going on up front. I mean, you can't walk away from your nature, can you?
Well, probably not. One of the things I was asked, about being a head coach, I was always afraid I wouldn't get a chance to coach, and Pete lets me come down there and get in the way sometimes, and that group is a continue to be a work in progress. But I think sometimes, even as a coach, how can you best help your team? Well, I think that's probably where I have the best chance to help our team in a lot of ways, and so it's given us that opportunity to do that. And having a guy like Pete. You had played for me. He was that kind of guy, as a player, and he gets it, and it's been fun. Watch that group develop, and I try to be as impartial as I can. When it gets into a little bit of offense, defense, I try to be one of those guys that, I know this. When we can be really, really good on defense, it's a whole lot easier to play offense.
Yeah.
And we try to take that approach, everything from recruiting to how we set up practice. We don't want to neglect anything, but we're trying to do what we can to help those guys on that side of the ball.
Because of the injuries and everything that transpired early last season, so many guys got pressed into playing time perhaps before they were ready, and we saw some really good young players start to develop and some stories start to develop out of that. On the defensive side of the ball, with graduation and I think some of the natural attrition that happens every offseason, correct me if I'm wrong now, but is it 20 of the top 22 on the depth chart who return from last year on the defensive side of the ball?
That's close. I don't know the exact number, but I'd say you're pretty close to being right there. I think the key for those guys is we do have a lot of production coming back. And we've talked as a team, there's some areas we need to be more productive. But we do have a lot of guys coming back. It certainly was a little different feeling out there this spring, just having some older guys. Really are able to redshirt very few guys, a handful of guys, but there are some guys that can help us that we're fortunately able to redshirt, and hopefully do a little bit more of that going forward. But we just got to continue to improve over there. I think we're at least to the point now where the fundamental part can be, when you aren't spending all your time just trying to teach them what to do.
Yeah.
Then you really got a chance to focus on the fundamental aspect, which really gives you a chance to accelerate your, ability to grow as a player. And, certainly we have guys that have been in the system now. Coaches have been in the system. And understanding maybe the strengths, weaknesses of your players, but having a chance really to focus on the fundamental part of it. I thought it's where we made some of our best progress this spring.
But because you have so much of that depth returning from that defensive unit, what was it tempting during the spring to say, Chad, go do your thing, and we're going to focus on the holes on the offensive side? Talking about Chad Staggs, the defensive coordinator.
Well, we have to do so much just where we are numbers-wise. We do so much stuff against each other, good on good, which I think has really helped us. I think one of the things we probably probably where I tried to help him a little bit this spring was, we're a pretty multiple group on offense. And we, as even some opponents said, people that I know, one guy told me, he said, y'all are running 3 offenses. Well, I don't really know we're running 3 offenses, but we do some different things. Well, as a defense, and even practice-wise, that can make it a little challenging, particularly when you have some young guys, and they're having to adjust all those different looks. We tried to segment practice a little bit more where they had a little better idea of exactly what they were seeing, in those certain segments where it was an all-gun segment, gun run, or or some of the old traditional double slot 3-back stuff we did where we just tried to narrow the focus.
Yeah.
And then when you do that, it makes it harder on the offense because I think one of our strengths is being able to mix and match and go fast. But I think that's probably where we tried to help them as much as anything, just to help the development of some young guys, particularly in the back half.
And, the thing about it, too, is the fact that you are so multiple offensively in the big picture can only help that defense when you're practicing because, as Chad and I have talked and you and I have talked, in the Southern Conference, you see just about every kind of offense there is out there, from the spread to versions of what we do. I mean, so every week it's a different challenge for a defensive coordinator in this league.
Well, there's no question about that. And I think one of the things I don't consider us an option football team. I know we run quite a bit of option, but I feel like if we're playing the Citadel, we can do a pretty good job preparing our defense because we feel like we can do those things and execute them at a pretty high level because it's a part of what we do. If we're playing, a Samford who's going to throw it 50, 60 times a game, we feel like we're certainly capable of presenting that look to our defense, even in preparation, because it is stuff that we do. And so I think you got to always have a chance to continue to develop secondary players. If your secondary never gets to see a pretty sophisticated passing game, with 3 and 4 wides and the gun and some drop back, it's kind of hard for them to develop. Because at the end of the day, if we want to be where we want to be, and that's winning a conference championship and having a chance to compete for a national championship, you're going to have to be able to play against those people. And, there's going to be people you're going to have to beat, that do all those things. And so I think as we, put together who we are offensively and defensively, that's kind of in mind. Yet still being different enough that makes you hard to prepare for.
Continuing to visit with Furman football coach Clay Hendrix, just a couple more things, and I'll let you go and really appreciate your time. The transfers that have been assimilated into the program now, it's not something that happens very often here at Furman, really, in any sport because of academics, and I think everybody knows that story, but you did bring 3 transfers in. How do they look? What does the fit look like? Where do you see them fitting into what's going on?
Well, it's been fine. They were kids that I knew about before, and I think for us, anytime we take a kid, it's no different if it's a high school kid that I just think you want to make sure there are fits here, which they all 3 were. Certainly athletically, academically, can they understand that it's going to be challenging academically? Can they appreciate what the degree is going to do for them? Is football important to them? And if there are, you try to ask all the questions and are there red flags? And, I've always had a little bit of a say in, I just think, guys that are transferring, you do need to look long and hard why, and what's going to be different if they're here. But all those guys were good fits here. And, but they get here and you find out they're no different than the other guys. They have some challenges in school. They have some challenges, physically. They get banged up just like anybody else. But they fit here. They fit in with our guys. And I didn't really feel like that. The last thing I would do is try to get in some kind of a quick fix. And it was kind of the same way with that offensive line group. They'd signed a lot of guys before we got here. We took 1 each of the last 2 years. We've shifted a couple of guys around. Jordan Harris, we moved. He started 3 games at defensive tackle, and we moved him over there. It's been an unbelievable move for him and for us. I'm just really excited about what he's going to bring to the table in that group. And we had some younger guys that we felt like we could play with. So, I like where we are, where we're headed. We still got some holes to fill. We do. I would like to think if we're sitting here a year from now, we're in a lot better spot depth-wise at certain spots. We're still a little thin at some spots.
Well, like you said, 15 months in, it's not all going to rectify itself that quickly. It takes time. And people these days don't like to hear that. and you may have kind of hurt your own cause with that standpoint by having the season you had in year 1. Quite honestly, now the expectations from fans, how fans are, the expectations are probably significantly higher not probably, they are significantly higher here in year 2 than they were going into the first year.
Well, I imagine we had some low expectations coming into the year, and I really wasn't sure what my expectations were, other than just if we could just kind of keep improving.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part we did. People ask about the expectations. Especially once you get into it, I'd a whole lot rather somebody think I'm going to be pretty good than nobody thinks you're ever going to be very good.
Yeah.
And does there come a little bit more pressure of that? I don't know, maybe. But that's where we want to be. I'd love to be picked first every year, because if you do that, that means you got a chance to have a pretty good team.
Right.
And I think as long as you continue to put the time and the work, and you keep things in perspective. But that's where we'd want. We'd like to be a top 10 team every year. At the start of the year, because that's what people think about your program. And we were that once, but we were that once before.
Yeah.
But that comes from playing well, continue to improve, continue to recruit well, develop players, and most importantly, get guys that are fit here.
Yeah. Finally, let's hyper focus in on Coach Bernardi and that change at the strength and conditioning spot. David Abernathy leaves after 7 seasons, I believe, here, and so Coach Bernardi comes from North Greenville, and everybody that I talk to, regardless of the sport, say that this guy is just a maniac, but in a good way. Right. He has gotten rave reviews from everybody that I've talked to.
Well, and me too. I feel that way about him. Our players feel that way about him. There were some things we wanted to change in there, and I know Coach Ab and I we talked about it even in December before the other opportunity for him even came up, and then finally when we went and we had to hire a guy and went. So some of the things we were looking for, he's just been. I used that term earlier. He's talking about a home run hire, and I be honest with you. And I know I'm partial because it's football. I'm saying for Furman athletics, I'd be surprised if you didn't ask. I walk through there and he's in there coaching the heck out of the women's teams that are in there. You name it. Mm-hmm. He's just that kind of guy. And but just he has set a standard in there, much like we would like to want to set football wise, and he holds them to that standard. And when they don't. When they aren't carrying out the standards we expect, then there's a price to pay.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of interesting to watch him kind of take that. And I guess he's been here about 6 weeks.
Yeah. What's been the because you were on the at least the interview committee, you had a little bit of a say in the hiring process. What was it in that part of the process that made him stand out to you?
Well, the thing stood out to me, I think anytime I knew some people that had worked with him, that I had a whole lot of faith and trust in, and I know kind of the things they value, I knew I valued.
Yeah.
Chad had, he had played for him when they were at North Greenville, and, he was a really good player. You know what? I've been more, it's like when you go visit people and you try to learn from other places. I've always been just kind of more interested in who's doing more with less. Mm-hmm. And I think the job he had up there at North Greenville was a challenging job. I think he was the first strength coach they ever had.
Right.
The numbers of teams, resources, and just to watch the job that he did and enthusiasm and everything I was told, and it's kind of like in recruiting. I asked all the questions, but everything I was told that's about how it's been. So I just thought he was a really good fit here. He was already living, right up the road here in Travelers Rest, and it has been interesting to watch our kids kind of come around because he has. They put in a day's work.
He's challenged
when they go. And he has challenged them, and and just his enthusiasm and just the way he demands things. Like I said, it has been. That is such a huge part of athletics in general, but particularly a Division I football program, and I couldn't be happier with how it's going.
And as we wrap it up, we're heading down the stretch here. The school year is just about over, heading into the summertime. You seem to be really excited about this upcoming season.
Well, we got a chance to have a pretty good football team. there's no guarantees. We certainly have a challenging start to it. The schedule's not easy. Won't be easy to start with. But I think we have enough players in place. I do feel like I know who we have. This time last year, I didn't feel like I knew our team real well, so I wasn't really sure. I do know we're going to have to play a few freshmen. I think our recruiting has gone well again. We'll have to be lucky, a little bit lucky from an injury standpoint. But a lot of that this time of year is becoming more durable, and you do that by really preparing well. I think our staff will do a phenomenal job, and at the end of the day, we'll have to go play. But I like some of our young players. I like those quarterbacks. I do think we have good enough players around them that it's not going to be an all on their shoulders kind of deal. But I don't know. I don't know how you can. I think everybody's a little bit enthusiastic this time of year. It's kind of like, signing day recruiting. Whoever gets up there and says, we didn't get anybody we wanted.
I'm still waiting for the first coach to do that, by the way.
But I'd say this. I think we have enough good players. We are thin at some spots, and I just like the way they're working. I just do, and I like our organization, everything from our trainers and our equipment people and you name it. I think everybody's on the same page.
Good deal. I like to hear that. Thank you for coming and spending a little bit of extended time with us and catching up. And let's keep the hard work rolling, and it'll be here before we know it.
It will certainly be here before you know it. I appreciate it. Thank you,
All
Dan.
right, thank you. That is head football coach Clay Hendrix. We'll take a break, come back, and we'll replace the football coach with the baseball coach. Brett Harker is up next here on the Dan Scott Show. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hey, Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
Life's healthier when you're backed by a Greenville Health System primary care doctor. Because then, the doctor that has your back is backed by the more than 1,000 physicians and specialists at the region's leading health system, all working together to bring you the right care in the right place at the right time. Great health starts with a GHS primary care doctor, and there are more than 200 of them conveniently located throughout the upstate, ready to see you. Find yours today at ghs.org/mydoctor.
The Atlanta Bread Company wants to make your dining experience as convenient as possible, especially if you're ordering takeout. Go online to atlantabreadcompany.com, place your order there, and pay for it too. Then, when you get to the restaurant at Cherrydale Point, you breeze right by the cash registers and go straight to the pickup counter where your food will be waiting. And speaking of food, try the new Shrimp Po' Boy, a delicious and surprisingly healthy addition to the already great menu. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Point in Greenville.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
All right, welcome back to the program. Our thanks to Clay Hendrix for spending some time with us and catching us up on what's going on football-wise. We now turn our attention to the Diamond, where tomorrow it's the Mallard Creek Series, otherwise known as Furman and Wofford. This, of course, is Brett Harker, the Paladins baseball coach. A little Southern Conference action against your neighbor.
Oh, yeah.
Todd Interdonato
This
coming
is the one
into
I
town.
look forward to. This is the fun one. It means a lot to our neighborhood. Todd lives 2 or 3 houses down from me. Depends on what you say because he's around one turn. But we have a very close neighborhood. We live in a very tight-knit community where all of our kids play together, and we have a lot of cookouts and tailgates and stuff. So this is a fun one for our community, and there's a lot on the line. I've said it before, but if you guys haven't heard, the loser of this series has to fly the other team's flag in their yard for a week. 2 years ago, Todd flew it, and we marched down there as a family and put it in his front yard. And then last year, unfortunately, they took the series from us, And my 4-year-old daughter cried every day that the Wofford flag was in our yard. So there's a lot at stake here.
And from what you were telling me, he kind of upped the ante with a larger flag.
He upped the ante with a larger flag. So right now I'm on eBay trying to find one of those projectors like you see at Christmas time with diamond Fs going everywhere. But we got to take care of business on the field first.
I think the funniest thing that you told me about Emma last year was when the flag was in the yard, and what was it she said? I don't want to be a Wofford.
Yeah, she was crying right before we went to school, and I said, baby, what's the matter? And she said, I don't want our neighbors to think that we're Wooford now. And I said, I think we're okay. I think they know that we're not Wooford. So
that's funny. Hey, you know, the team is playing pretty well right now. But that was a tough loss back on Tuesday night against Winthrop, wasn't it?
It affected me. It really did. That, you know, you have losses. And I've talked to a couple different coaches since then, especially in the game of baseball where you play so many games. It's just different. You have to have a different mindset after wins, after losses. You have to be able to let things roll off your back, because if you don't, you'll go mad when you play that many games. And look, the New York Yankees are 2 games under 500. I mean, it's just baseball is one of those games where you'll go mad trying to be perfect, even though that's what everybody wants. And but some games just affect you more than others. And I probably haven't been that affected since we lost at Clemson 3 years ago when we had the lead in the 9th, where you can't sleep after it. And it was one of those games, and I was able to open up to the guys about why I was disappointed and our lack of focus for 9 innings, and just kind of went through the motions. And then all of a sudden we kick it into gear, and I felt like all of a sudden we were invested and made a run at, and then just lack of execution. Just things that are not going to, get us to the place we want to be. But I was able to move on from it. We had a good practice, and we're looking forward to the Terriers coming into town.
I think there were some positive things, obviously, that came out of a very difficult loss. The first and foremost, from my standpoint anyway, what was the way John Michael Bertrand bounced back.
Really threw the ball well. Very, very pleased with the way he threw the ball. Really only had that one mistake pitch that cost us with the home run to Spires. But, man, to see him bounce back and throw the ball that way, that was good, because his last outing was the worst of his career. So to see him bounce back was really good. And I know I'm stealing your thunder, but Landon Kay having some hits and running one out of the yard, I think that's just a huge monkey off his back as well. And I think you're going to see him really take off.
Yeah, because, as we have kind of been documenting the story of his season, that he's too good of a hitter to stay in this extended slump. And to his credit, still finding ways to get on base. I think even coming into the game at 211 with a batting average, he had been on base 24, 25 consecutive games. But this is a guy who hit 337 and cranked 11 home runs a year ago. And you said last year, not to throw this up in your face, but I will, that you thought he had the swing that translates best to the professional game of anybody on your team. Yeah, and that's pretty high praise from somebody who played all the years of professional baseball.
It's a simple swing, and I still feel that way. His timing's just been off, but I'll tell you, it's been a whole lot better. And the thing I'll always get my guys back, but the thing that you can praise about Landon, look at his on-base percentage. Mm-hmm. And the guy's still getting on base. He's getting a bunch of walks, and is really, if you look over the last 10 games, hit a whole lot better. He just put himself in a hole, and it's going to be it's going to be a long process to get that batting average back up to where it's something that we'll stop talking about it, which I know that's tough for him. It's very much like a relief pitcher. Once you get that high ERA, it takes a very long time for people to stop talking about your elevated ERA.
Well, and Bertrand was a perfect example. He goes into the Georgia State start with an ERA of 4.19 that is heading down, and after an inning and 2/3, when you pulled him, he leaves and it's 6.10.
And it takes you a month to get it respectable again. And that's our sport, and in particular on the mound, you can only go 0 for 4, maybe 0 for 5 at the plate. You could do unlimited damage to your ERA as a pitcher, which is always a fun little part of being, especially a relief pitcher with your innings pitched.
Speaking like someone who knows what he's talking about, right?
Unfortunately, I know that a little too well.
What was the difference in Bertrand from the Winthrop start versus the Georgia State start?
It's all about keeping the ball down. And I
Just
know
that simple.
It's literally that simple. That's why he's good. That's why when he throws bullpens, we feel so positive about running him out there. He just doesn't throw balls above the knees. And for whatever reason, the day against Georgia State, he literally couldn't get the ball down. And, And that's why I knew just running back out there, it just wasn't an option. We had to get him out. Couldn't get the ball down because he doesn't have explosive stuff. He's just a pitcher. And, all this movement, the pitching up in the zone that you hear, well, it's because Major League Baseball, the average fastball is 95, and out of the bullpen it's 98. Well, you can pitch up in the zone there. For most of college baseball and high school baseball, all these travel balls and facilities that are, these guys don't know what they're talking about when they talk about keep the ball down. Well, yeah, we do. Just because they're doing it at major league level, they're pitching at a completely different level of velocity-wise that you can get beat. We have a guy that I think TK pitches up in the zone well. It's because he's got a fastball that allows him to do that. Not that he throws 95, but because of the angle when he gets down, there are times to throw up, and then there are simply pitchers that cannot be successful up in the zone.
Yeah. It was just great to see him bounce back, as you said, the one mistake. And as I crafted it on the broadcast Tuesday night, it's a Latham Stadium home run.
It was. Yeah.
But Latham Stadium helps us a lot more than it hurts us, so you have to live with those things when they happen.
It does, and we know that, and that's why we really don't complain about it, because we know that in theory the way I present it to our guys is it should always be our advantage, because we know how to pitch to it, and then when we make a mistake, we expect it's not a big deal to us. When visitors can get rattled, should get rattled a whole lot quicker than us with that short porch and left.
Yeah, we are talking Furman baseball with Brett Harker, the Powellans and the Wofford Terriers, beginning on Friday. Tomorrow, game time change in the series, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment. What's been your assessment of Jason Costa since he's been back behind the plate?
It's good. Obviously, we'd like his arm to be in a little better shape, but he calls a great game and manages our pitching staff really, really well. We're going to have some tough decisions to make with Wofford coming in with how much they run. And our pitchers, I think we're getting better. It feels like every time we do a high leg kick is the one time they run. And we're trying to eliminate that. One of Leo's big theories, which I really like, is when you're in the stretch, just pitch at the same time to the plate every time. So if you're a 1-2-8, just be a 1-2-8 every time, whether the guy's fast or whether the guy's slow, whether the guy's at first and whether the guy's at first or second. If you're a 1-3-5, be a 1-3-5. But don't vary in speed. One, you're gambling whether they're going to be able to run or not. And two, you're messing with your mechanics. It'd be like going from the windup and you do a high leg kick one time and a low one the next. It's hard to be consistent like that. So that's something that we've worked on. For the most part, as a staff, we can be in a 1-3 range. For you guys that don't understand, that's the time from when you first make your first movement on the mound to the time that it hits the catcher's mitt, a 1.3 seconds. You want it there or below to give your catcher a chance with a 2-0 pop time or less to throw a runner out. And that's something that we continue to work on. With lefties, you don't necessarily need to do that, but you need to have a good pickoff move to keep them in check.
What Costa's move behind the plate has done, obviously, is opened up the spot for Jared Mahalik, and we obviously know the 5 games that he's had, homered in 4 straight, had a couple of hits on Tuesday night to continue to swing the bat well. So if something happens that Jason can't go behind the plate, if you have to make that decision based on whether it's the health of the arm or Wofford's ability to steal bases, then that starts a domino effect in your lineup.
It does, and that's why we've been running Mahalik out there and left to get him comfortable. You just do whatever you can, as long as it doesn't become a liability defensively. You do whatever you can to keep your best bats in the lineup, and it's all these little intricate things that are domino effects as the coaching staff that a lot of the normal fan doesn't really see. But every little move makes a difference. A lot of people, well, why hasn't Mahalik been playing? Well, it's a pretty simple answer. We didn't have a position to put him in, and Costa isn't coming out of the lineup as a DH. He's our best hitter and has been all year. So it's just amazing how, like you said, these little things add up, and certain pieces. You'd be surprised how many good bats we have on the bench, but there's only so many positions guys can play.
Yeah. How have you adjusted here past the halfway point of your second season to being the guy that everybody second guesses? Because as an assistant coach, obviously that doesn't happen, or at least doesn't happen very often. But now every move you make is even at this level, it is micromanaged and second guessed by fans, by media, maybe by even some of your own players from time to time. How have you handled that?
I will tell you, I think it's a really good thing, honestly, coming from a pitcher, because you have to have thick skin. You're on the center of the field, and everything you do is a huge impact. And especially as a closer, if you lose the game, you got to have thick skin, and that's part of being a head coach. That's part of the deal. I will tell you, this might be an extremely optimistic way of looking at it, but for instance, the famous Crawford bunt that I put on, obviously a lot of people aren't happy with that. That to me is a sign that we have passionate fans. And if nobody gave a crap whether I put on bunt or not, I think we'd be in bigger trouble. The fact that we're a mid-major baseball team and that many people are upset about a bunt, that tells me our program's going in the right direction, because people care about what we're doing and are invested. I'll tell you, if I had that situation again, I would bunt again. And that's part of the deal of being around a lot of baseball games and knowing the strengths of your team, things that, the average fan or even somebody as close as you, they're not there at every practice and know the different abilities of guys, know who can bunt, know who's susceptible to ground ball double plays, know what's going on in the dugout, and know what pinch hitting options you have in the dugout as well. So there's all these things that go through your head that the average fan just says, why the heck did we bunt there? He killed a rally. Well, I can talk. I'd love to talk with you about it. There's about 10 reasons why I did it.
Yeah, because the one thing that I heard after the game was he's bunting with his cleanup hitter who's batting almost 300 to try to get a 133 hitter to the plate.
Yep.
That was the big thing that people were talking about.
So this is the beauty of why I love coming on your show, because now you can open up the curtain and see what I'm thinking. So a couple things are going on there. You got first and second, nobody out. The tying runs at second, the winning runs at first. And you have a guy that, although he is hitting 300, has been very susceptible to breaking balls here as of late. So I'm trying to take the double play out of effect, because the only thing that's going to completely kill this rally is Jake hitting into a double play. So we tell him to bunt, and now they put on what I'm almost certain of is a crash. So I yell out, if they crash, swing through it.
Which we heard on the broadcast,
and then
by
they
the way.
instantly change their play. So now I know, okay, we're not going to bunt into where they're going to get our lead runner. So I'm feeling pretty good, who, by the way, Jake, I probably would put as our top 3 bunters on the team. I'm feeling pretty good about having the winning run or the tying run at third, the winning run at second. And, for whatever reason or not, Jake thought that they crashed, and they didn't. And he took a swing at the first one, and they called that foul ball. And so now we're 0-1, and I know he's going to start seeing breaking balls. So just telling you what goes through the head coach's mind, I know that Jake has been susceptible to breaking balls down and out of the zone, swinging. So now I want him to square up and be able to see that breaking ball really well and just be able to pull back on it until we get to a hitter's count, or if he just throws a fastball, get it down. Now, I'll tell you, as far as it being your cleanup hitter, well, our cleanup hitter hits second. That's just the way we do our lineup. Yeah. Jake is not our true cleanup hitter. We hit our cleanup hitter second. We hit what I would consider our third hitter. We hit our best 2 hitters second and third. Jake has hit anywhere from 2 to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 all year. He's bounced all around, so I wouldn't consider him a true cleanup hitter. I would consider him a good hitter for us. And what I'm thinking is we get second and third, they're going to do one of 2 things. They're either going to pitch to Dion, but they have to have the infield in. Well, I feel very confident Dion be able to put the ball in the outfield. Or they're going to intentionally walk Dion, in which, do you know who's coming up next? The guy's already got 3 hits and a home run on the day, who can run a little bit, so I'm not worried about him hitting into a double play. These are all the things that are going into your head. And then you get to a 2-strike count with Jake, and this is what goes to my head. Jake is on go at all times, and this guy's going to throw a breaking ball down and out of the zone. It's going to be a whole lot easier for him to recognize that from the bunt situation and pull back. If I can get it to a 2-2 count, I pull it off because he's going to get a fastball. These are all the things. Unfortunately, we didn't execute, and at the end of the day, the loss is on me. That's always the case. For those online and stuff, this loss on Harker. The losses are always on Harker.
That's right.
I mean, every time. I tell the guys, the wins are theirs, the losses are mine, and that's just the way it is. But it is nice to be able to – this is what we're thinking, and this is why we're doing what we're doing. And I always go back and review it. Hey, would I do this again? Talk with our coach staff. What do you think about this? And they said, Coach, it's just 10 out of 10. I even went up to Jake the next day. I said, Jake, in the back of your head, do you want to swing there, or what do you think? He said, Coach, we have to bunt. We got to give the guys a chance to get the job done. Unfortunately, it didn't work that time, The other thing you're thinking as you're going through all the scenarios, even if Jake doesn't get the bunt down, you still have 2 chances to get a base hit. Unfortunately, it didn't happen.
This is Brett Harker, and this is a look inside the open wound of a baseball coach.
Yeah, but those are all the things that happen in a matter of 10 seconds.
Right.
Those are all the things that you're thinking of that you don't ever really get to tell anybody. Everybody just thinks, oh, that guy wants to bunt. Well, I don't want to give outs. I just don't want to hit into a double play. I want us the best chance of winning the ball game there.
And as we saw, if you want to go back to a year ago when we had that incredible run, and you had told me at the beginning of the season, I don't expect bunting to be a big part of what we do, but you had to adapt to what you had available at the time. And man, the small ball was a big part of that success.
It was
in 2017.
It was, and I'll tell you, in a perfect world, we bunt once a week. I love to be able to run more, hit and run more. Unfortunately, we just haven't been very successul at that. And
we're really good at getting guys thrown out stealing, aren't we?
Really, really good at it. We did take a couple bases at Mercer, which felt good. But look, we're always just trying to adapt and get a little bit better and put ourselves in a better situation. And a lot of it is just so much based on the mentality of that kid that's at the plate. What is the best situation to put him in the best spot to be successful?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm glad you wanted to go into that because I think it's important for fans on occasion. It's not something you want to do after it's not the major leagues. You're not going to get the interrogation after every game, but on occasion just to get a little bit of a glimpse into everything that goes in to making a decision like that, because it's never as cut and dried as the fans or even some of us in the media like to make sometimes.
Yeah. And, another thing you're sitting there thinking, too, is you got Brandon Elmy sitting on the bench at any point you could pinch hit with. So there's just all those things. And honestly, it's kind of fun to be able to talk about it because as a head coach, very rare do you get to just say, well, this is what I was thinking. And, no, it didn't work that time, but let me tell you my thought process, And that's why it's nice to have a show like this.
Well, listen, if this is fun, I can start second guessing you all the time if you want me to.
That's all right. My wife does it. I'm getting used to it.
Yeah, well, there you go. That has nothing to do with baseball.
Not at all. Not at all.
So this weekend rotation going to remain the same?
It is, yeah. And, the weather doesn't look good on Sunday. We'll most likely have to play a doubleheader. We won't make that call till tomorrow. But because of different things with they're going to broadcast the game live with My 40 or something like that. They needed to know a definite start time, and that's why we moved that game up to 1 o'clock on Saturday, so we knew whether we played a doubleheader or not, that was our definite start time. And if we end up playing 2, they'll be able to air both of them. And I think that'll be a good thing for both programs to have a local television show broadcasting the game.
And did that also play a part in the moving of the game to 5 o'clock?
It did. That was something that they requested just because they're commuting back and forth with a quicker turnaround on Saturday. They just requested if we can move the game up an hour, and our game ops are able to do that. And, I think in the long run it'll end up being good. The baseball games go too long anyway. Let's get this thing started a little bit earlier.
I don't know. There are a lot of places that I can tell you I would rather not be than spending 3 hours or so at the ballpark.
I do it a lot, so I must like it.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, listen, man. Let's. This is always a fun series.
Yeah, it is.
And the Mallard Creek. You can't call it the Mallard Creek Bowl. Harbin gets upset.
Harbin gets really upset. It's not a bowl. It's a series. Even though the original name in our neighborhood is Bowl, but it's a series. So
right. Well, let's hope that you're the one planting the flag this year.
That is the game plan right there. And our guys are excited, but we got a lot of alumni coming back. We got the Northwoods Little League night. Yeah. There's a lot of exciting stuff. We should have really good crowds, and the weather should be pretty nice.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it, Brett.
All right, thank you, Dan.
All right, that is head coach Brett Harker, and that is going to put a wrap on things for the day. We will see you back here tomorrow. More preview of Furman Wofford, and who knows what else we'll get into. Didn't get to the fun stuff with the Yankees and Red Sox. Maybe we'll rehash that tomorrow as well. Until then, for the coach and for Coach Hendrix, I'm Dan Scott saying God bless you. So long, everybody. See you tomorrow.